In this CineGuru MAX tutorial, we're going to take a look at how your actors can activate and trigger elements within your world on their own, using an action text. So, over the past few videos, we've set up a scene where Jane walks over to Bob and they have a little conversation about this locked green shutter door over here. And then Bob walks over to his computer and says, well, I can open it from here. So what would be good is if once he said that line, the door could then kind of magically open. And we can actually get Bob to do that himself. So first off, we need to make a couple of changes to the door itself. So here is our door. It's just the standard warehouse door that comes with CineGuru MAX. And the first thing I'm going to do is give it a unique name. I'm going to call it door. I'm also going to make sure that its behavior is set to something that means it can be triggered by something else, which I'm using the door sliding script by Necrim, but depending on the element you're trying to trigger, you may need to use something else. Now what I want to do is go into Bob and go into the developer settings, and what I've done is I've added the name door to his if used field. So that means that every character in CineGuru MAX has an if used field. If that's activated, they will activate whatever element is named in that field. So when he activates his if used field, the door should be activated. So now what we need to do is add into the action text itself a command called activate, which will make him activate whatever is specified in the if used field. So Bob comes over to his computer, Mark II, he says his line, there's a little subtitle there for what he's saying, and then what we really want to do is add in the command activate, and now, let's just save that, after he said his line, the door should open.
General, there's a problem in Sector 34. The main door won't unlock for any personnel.
That's the door down the hall, isn't it?
Yes, the big green shutter door.
Luckily for you, I can open it from here.
Okay, great. So now what we want to do is kind of add a little ending to the scene where once that door is open, Jane walks through the door. So the first thing I'm going to do is drop down another actor mark, so somewhere for her to target. So as with all actor marks, it needs to be given a unique name, so I'm going to call it Mark III. Just save that. And back over in our action text, we're going to create a new line. I think we're going to move some of these commands around a little bit. So activate is the last thing we want Bob to do. I think just for sort of to make it clean, I'm going to get rid of that mvol command. And I'm going to type Jane move Mark III. So now, once that door has been activated, Jane will make her way to Mark III. Or at least she should do. This can be a little bit finicky, and actually there can be a few issues that can pop up to do with the pathfinding. And actually I hope I can show you that now. She may not make a beeline straight for that mark, as we'll see.
General, there's a problem in Sector 34. The main door won't unlock for any personnel.
That's the door down the hall, isn't it?
Yes, the big green shutter door.
Luckily for you, I can open it from here.
So the door is open, but she's actually going to walk around the wall and make her way to the mark the long way round. So I don't know whether this is a CineGuru MAX thing or whether it's to do with when the decision is made to go to that actor mark, but she won't always take the most direct route. You have to basically force her, you have to trick her into going the only way that she could possibly go to get to that mark. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to enclose our mark in walls, so there is literally no other way for her to get to it than to go through that door. Don't quite know why this is. I know that the AI is constantly being worked on within CineGuru MAX, and obviously subject to a lot of improvement, and pathfinding is part of that, is an integral part of that. So this may change in time, but for now we sort of need to make sure that if we are directing actors to marks through things like closed doors, we just need to make sure that all other options are closed off, either with kind of scenery like this, or you may even be able to do it with invisible walls. I haven't checked, but now there is literally no way to this mark other than to go through the door. So hopefully, if we've set this up right, she should make her way through the door.
General, there's a problem in Sector 34. The main door won't unlock for any personnel.
That's the door down the hall, isn't it?
Yes, the big green shutter door.
Luckily for you, I can open it from here.
Great. So now she's going through the door. So the activate command is designed to be used with your typical objects in the world. So it could be used for doors, it could be used for lights, it could be used for switches, all that sort of stuff that you might sort of, use in your sort of day-to-day game design, level design. But there is another command as well called trigger, which is subtly different because trigger is designed to trigger CineGuru MAX elements. So for instance, trigger could have one of our characters trigger a camera. So what I'm going to do now, just to finish off this scene, is I'm actually going to add in the command trigger. This is as Jane sets off, basically. So trigger, and then we're going to give a camera name. So I'm just going to put in camera 1. So what we're doing now is we're basically saying that once that door has opened, Jane will activate camera 1, and then she'll move to her mark. So if we go back to our scene, what I could do is I could actually put a camera perhaps this side of the wall or this side of the door and actually follow her walking into the room. So let's go to CineGuru MAX and drop in a camera marker. This is perhaps the only time you actually need to worry about the name of the camera. Normally you would just use a sort of a focal, visual logic to connect cameras together, so you don't need to sort of worry too much about it. But this time we actually do need to give the camera the same name. So we'll call it camera 1. And just so we can follow her the whole way, I tell you what we'll do. We'll make a little adjustment here. So we'll make the shot last for 10 seconds, and we will make it start quite tight. 40 is the frame of view, and it can get wider as she gets closer. 90, and I'm actually going to use a focal target so that the camera will always point towards whatever the focal target is attached to. So we'll draw a connection to our focal target and draw a connection between our focal target and Jane. So now wherever Jane walks, this camera will follow. So it should kind of track her coming through the door. So let's take a look at that in action, see if I've done that correctly. I'll just save it first.
General, there's a problem in Sector 34. The main door won't unlock for any personnel.
That's the door down the hall, isn't it?
Yes, the big green shutter door.
Luckily for you, I can open it from here.
Yeah, that's nice. So so Jane actually activates that camera as she starts walking through the door, and because we've got that focal target down here, we're able to track her movement wherever she goes. And you can kind of use this as the beginning of a sequence as well. You can have this camera lead on to other cameras, and it can actually set off its own whole scripted cinematic like we've shown in other video tutorials. So that's it for Bob and Jane. We've created a sequence that has two characters walking to different marks, talking to each other. We've got some music in there. We've got some subtitles for the dialogue they're saying, and in fact the music itself. And we've even got the characters activating objects within the world and firing off cinematics of their own. So all in all, a pretty complete sequence. But there are a few other interesting actor commands that I do want to run through. And in the next video tutorial, I'll be going through some of those. So join me then.